What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all having an amazing day. Now, today I've got for you 3 entitled parent stories, all involving entitled people trying to steal money from their own family. The first one is extremely sad. Unfortunately, this girl was manipulated by her parents into signing over $200,000 of her own inheritance. Without further ado, sit back, relax, make sure you are subscribed to my channel if you haven't done so already, and hit the bell so you know when I post new episodes. Let's go. Parents had me sign over $200,000 of inheritance. When my grandfather died during COVID, I received a legal document asking to sign over $200,000 from my grandfather's insurance policy so my parents could receive that as well as their $200,000. My brother also received a letter. My parents didn't talk to me about this, so I sent a text asking about it, and I got a response saying I needed to sign the money over because my grandfather spent all their inheritance at the end of his life. They were entitled to his insurance policy because they needed a house. I did, and now I regret it. I tried to speak to my brother about it shortly after I signed, and he immediately told my dad, and I got a nasty email from him saying if I didn't move on from it, the relationship would be irreparable. It was very hurtful. My parents ended up buying a really nice house and are set for life. They've treated me pretty badly ever since too. My brother helped sell everything in my grandfather's house and the actual house as well, and I'm sure he got money because he also bought a house during this time. My brother was very abusive to me during this, micromanaging what I took. My father put him in charge of his estate, saying I could only take my grandmother's clothes, but I'm not allowed to sell any of them. My grandmother had died 10 years prior. My brother actually screamed and yelled at me one day because I went to get her clothes without asking permission. So he locked me out of their house, then accused me of weird things like stealing stuff after he'd locked me out. At the time, I decided to detach myself from the situation as it was causing emotional stress, and this was during the COVID lockdown. Now, I've been having difficulties finding a place to live. My son, husband, and I keep moving into moldy apartment after moldy apartment the last few years. It never ends. We cannot afford to rent a house, and we're struggling. My parents, though, don't want to hear my struggles. They get mad and gaslight me like I'm making these problems up. Our last move 2 weeks ago was from rainwater coming through the ceiling. I talked to my mum yesterday and she was saying that she didn't understand why we moved and said she felt sorry for my husband. I went off on her and I brought up the money for the first time, then I hung up on her. It's been almost 4 years and only last year I realised what a terrible mistake I made. I don't know what to do except just completely detach from them. I sent my aunt a message, who also received $200,000 and was well off beforehand, asking why I was asked to sign the money to my parents. It was their decision and no one has had the balls to explain it. So am I wrong to even bring it up now? Oh, what a tragic start to this episode. I mean, that is just brutal. I don't think anything can be done. I don't think you're wrong to bring it up now and to get some form of emotional justice, I suppose, by having people tell you and you now finally understanding, OP, that what happened was horrible and so unfair. But in terms of like the legalities of this, I feel like unless you can prove that you were forced to sign this over under duress, there's nothing you can do. Like, your parents just played you. They manipulated you. I can't quite believe it, but yeah, legally, I think you're in the mud. Listen, cynically, I could sit here and say, what were you thinking by doing this? But, you know, you're a kid and your parents are your parents. Throughout your entire life, you're told, like, listen to your parents, they know best. And you were probably just doing that. But I don't know, maybe you're just being naive or just didn't understand the brutality and the truth of the situation. But my goodness me, you know what, maybe it is worth getting a lawyer involved just to see what could possibly be done. I hope for your sake that something can be, but I just don't think it can. Now moving on to our second entitled parent story of this episode. My entitled mum wants me to pay my creep stepbrother's student debt. I am a 29-year-old woman and I have an older stepbrother, Chris, who is 42, who's been a nightmare since the day my mum married his dad. Let me give a bit of background. Our parents married when I was 4 and he was 17. Both our parents were widowed. After their wedding, we moved to the US since my mum had American citizenship through marriage. I was born in the US too, but after my dad died when I was 1, my mum and I moved back to Colombia. Stepdad got his residency through marriage and my stepbrother because he was a minor. Now, my stepbrother wasn't a big fan of me. My only memories of him are just constant bullying. He'd be left in charge of me since he was studying locally and lived with my parents, but mostly his babysitting really meant things like locking me in the guest bathroom or the shed outside. He'd steal my lunchbox whenever he was the one who dropped me off at school. He even began to harm my pets. I have an old cat that has been with me for almost 22 years. He tried more than once to run her over with his car. My parents never believed any of it. He's the classic golden child. My mum absolutely wanted a son instead of a daughter, so my stepbrother took priority over me. The bullying just kept getting worse and creepier. He had this long key for the bathroom. The door was designed so in case it got locked by accident, one could open it by inserting a long stick or key through a small hole on the outside. He would use it to walk in on me showering. My underwear would disappear sometimes, and I know for a fact it was him. He also started taking pictures of me sleeping. One night, I woke up to him taking care of himself next to me while I slept. I yelled, obviously. My parents came over, but he wasn't in trouble. I was for tempting him. I was 14 when this happened. He was 27. Oh my goodness me. No one helped me, and he got bolder until he did something I am still in therapy for when I was 16. It got to a point where I called my biological half-older brother, Sam, who is a 48-year-old and son of my biological father's first wife, to see if I could live with him and his wife, Sandy, during my last 2 years of high school. When Sam found out what was going on, he confronted my mum. My mum didn't care and just told him to take me so long he never asked her for money. Done and done. My brother and his wife became my legal guardians and took me in with my cat and the old family dog since I didn't trust leaving any living creature with Chris around. My parents never checked on me. My extended family from my father's side knew what happened and they immediately got together to ensure that I could finish school well and go to college. I don't know my maternal family at all. Thanks to my paternal family, including Sam's mother and her family, I got my bachelor's and master's, had no student debt, and I work as a nurse practitioner. I still live with Sam, his wife, and their 2 kids, and I pay a small amount of rent. Neither Sam nor his wife expected me to pay anything, but that is the least I can do for the 2 people who have taken care of me for 13 years. Now, for anyone wondering why I haven't moved on, it's incredibly expensive where I live, and Sam insisted that I stay with them until I save enough to buy my own home. Things seemed okay until my mum messaged me recently. She'd not messaged me since I was 18 when she told me she no longer had any responsibility to me. In this message, she sounded overly friendly, telling me how she missed me and asking how I was doing. I was a bit creeped out, but I decided to be nice, telling her about what I'd done since leaving her care. She seemed very interested, since apparently she knew I was a nurse, but not what kind I was. She began asking me about my salary. I didn't tell her anything about it, but that it was enough to pay the bills. My mum then began texting about Chris and how he was barely making any money due to his student debt. Apparently, Chris never finished a degree, jumping from career to career. He's now working in my stepdad's used car business as a salesman, but most of his pay went to pay the substantial student debt that he got over the year. I told my mum how sorry I was that Chris was having a hard time, and I wished him luck. That is when my mum finally got to what she wanted. She texted me saying that I needed to pay his student debt so he could finally begin to make the money he deserves like the man of the family. I just turned off my phone. When I got home, Sam was surprised, since I was usually the last to arrive. Sandy wasn't home yet. I told Sam what happened and I showed him my mum's text messages. I don't think I've seen Sam this angry ever. He told me to block my mum, stepdad, and Chris if I hadn't done so yet. After talking with Sam and Sandy, I called my boss to ask for the next day and the one after off. This gave me a 4-day weekend, including the days that I'm normally off shift. My boss was more than okay with this and told me to just take it easy and let her know if she could help. This backfired because the next day my mum and Chris decided to come to Sam's house to speak to me. I was alone since Sam and Sandy were at work and the kids were at school. I immediately called Sam and told him what was going on. He told me not to open the door and that he was on his way. My mum spent the whole time screaming that I owed them for raising me and that my sweet brother deserved the money. Chris was going around trying to find a window or door unlocked. There weren't any since the windows have safety bars and the only other door is in the closed garage and one in the yard. The yard one was locked, and just in case, I locked the one in the garage. I won't post what he called me when he saw me from one of the windows, but basically, he pretty much told me they should have thrown me away when I was a baby since I grew up to be a B. He pounded in one of the windows so hard that he actually cracked the glass. Eventually, he gave up and went back to the front door, clearly trying to kick it down. I didn't have anything to worry about. The door was a security door, but I was still very scared. Between yelling, threatening, pleading, and insults, I finally heard Sam screaming to them to get lost. I only saw things from the window. Sam pretty much dragged them both off the porch. They got to a point that I couldn't hear, but I saw my mum and Chris pale and look scared before they pretty much ran to their car and drove off way past the legal speed limit. Sam came in a little bit after and immediately went full overprotective brother mode, asking me if I was okay. He kept saying sorry and hugging me. Sandy arrived almost immediately after, and she looked like she was about to commit a felony. Apparently, Sam threatened him with filing charges for what he did to me when I was 16. My brother's ace, my stepdad, was willing to testify against his own son. That seemed enough to get Chris off our backs, but not my mum. Since then, it's been 3 days, and my mum has sent texts, called non-stop with various numbers, and rallied a group of people who are supposedly my maternal family to harass me for money. She claims that money should legally be hers since she's my mother, that it's my late father's missed child support. Sam's helping me find a lawyer to get a restraining order on my mum, and I plan to take my stepdad's offer to testify by pressing charges against Chris. I can't say I can forgive him for not stopping his son, but I appreciate that he's at least trying. I don't know the details, but Chris did something to a relative of his dad, and since then they had a really bad fallout. I took my boss's offer, and I'll be on vacation for a few more days. But here it is. My vacation days are getting eaten up, and my therapist might need a therapist after. Thankfully, my dark sense of humor and supportive paternal family are keeping me somewhat sane. Oh my goodness me. Now, I thought the first story was pretty bad, but that was just money. This is way, way worse. I mean, look, getting financially ruined by your parents is one thing, as we saw in the first story, or them stealing money from you, in effect, is one thing. But this, the horrible, traumatic stuff that has happened to you, that yeah, as you say, is the reason you're still in therapy now. Then the money on top of that, goodness me. I mean, this is just worse. Wow. I mean, let's just focus on the money for now. Yeah, with that, I guess just make sure that you have security measures put in place to make sure that that can't be taken from you. But that's just a minor thing, I feel like, at this point. The rest of this stuff is just insane. These people aren't just entitled, they're literally like disgusting. Worst of the worst, should be in prison sort of level. Let's be honest. I mean, there is some illegal stuff here that's happened. That's kind of clear. I will say it does sound good that you have people now that you can actually trust. Sam and his family. I mean, that's just brilliant that they're coming in and helping you. It's about time, is all I'll say, because your mum and your stepbrother are two of the worst humans that I've ever come across. Now for our final entitled parent story of this one. My mum stole my money that I've been saving for a month. I've been working every single day for a month without a day off because I wanted to go on a vacation with my friends after graduation. I worked so hard for this. I was saving cash in my drawer and there's a lock on it, so wherever I go, I take that key with me. But today, my stupid butt forgot the key on the dining table. I went to the bathroom to shower. Nobody was home except my mother and me. My siblings were at school in an exam, so when I finished showering, I saw the keys at my room and I didn't care. I thought maybe I'd moved them before I went to the bathroom. Then I prepared my desk to study. When I finished studying, I thought maybe I could go and hang out with my friends. So I opened my drawer and the money was gone. All of it. Nothing left. So, obviously, nobody's home except me and my mum. I confronted her as calmly as I could. And I said, "Did you open my drawer?" I swear, I noticed her hands were shaking and she said, "No, I didn't." "Why?" I said, "Well, my money's gone." She said, "I didn't take anything. Someone's stealing my money as well. Or maybe you dropped it somewhere like you always do, you careless donkey." I replied, "Well, if someone's stealing your money, why would you take mine?" "You don't dare talk to me like that. I'm your mother. Close the door and get out of my sight before I pray that you fail your exams. What are you going to do with money anyway? You're still young. Money comes and goes." I didn't know what to say, and I went back to my room and texted my dad and told him what happened, and he still didn't respond to me. My final exams are in 2 weeks, and I can't work anymore. And me and my friends, were planning that on the last day of the exam, we'd head straight to Sharm el-Sheikh. This is the first time in my entire life that I feel so helpless and betrayed like that. After graduation, I'm going to move out of my parents' home. Even if I become homeless, I don't care anymore. And there we go. That is going to do it for the final story. What I would say to you, OP, is yes, clearly you've got to go. You just do. It's going to be tough, but I think you just have to. When you do move out, though, make it clear to her that you want absolutely no contact with her. Look her in the eye and tell her that. And then go and live a life with people that you can actually trust. Because, you know, if your own mother is doing this to you, how can you ever have a relationship with her? It's impossible. Can you call the cops on her? I don't know. Maybe not, because she's your own mum, but it is technically your money. Yes, it's in your house or her house, but it is your money and she has stolen it from you. That is illegal. I don't know. It depends to what level you want to go. But again, I think it is probably worth getting legal involved in some way, because what's the worst that could happen? Oh, actually, to be fair, OP has said in the comments down below, in a reply to a comment saying, can you call the cops? That's an amazing idea. I'm going to try it as soon as she gets home. Thanks, man. Well, there you go. I mean, I will say, even if you don't get anything done, like, you know, legally, telling your mum that you've called the police on her and being completely serious with her might make her just give it back to you anyway. Now, yes, that's not going to solve all your issues, but at least you'll have the money back. Hopefully she'll just crumble and say, oh, don't worry, don't involve the police. Please, you're my son, etc., etc. Here's the money. I'm so sorry. Now, still move out, still get rid of her, still never talk to her again. But yeah, at that point, at least you have the money. Or you can go the other way and don't tell her and then just have the police come around and arrest her and charge her. That's the level. I mean, it's up to you where you want to go with this. But the more I think about it, the more I feel like police need to be involved. Anyway, guys, that is going to do it for this one. Hope you enjoyed it. If you are a fan of money and entitled people, well, that was the perfect episode for you. Let me know in the comments down below which of these 3 stories you enjoyed the most. I'm doing this in air quotes because I'm not entirely sure, but you know, which was the best? Which was the most enthralling? That second story, just crazy sort of stuff. I don't know if you guys have seen Baby Reindeer on Netflix, but I'm getting that sort of vibe from Chris and your stepmom OP. Like outside your house, smashing the windows, trying to get in and stuff. It's just crazy. But yeah, hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll catch you all on the next one.